Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I look forward to our time together this morning where we can connect for a time of reflection and introspection. And I welcome you this morning to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Northern Nevada, where it is our mission to grow in love, faith, justice, and joy. My name is Dave Bianchi, and along with Rolland Carlson, we'll offer our reflections today. Know that we welcome all to be part of us, regardless of racial identity, age, economic circumstances, immigration status, sexual orientation, or gender identity. If you're someone who's viewing this and it's your first exposure to us, feel free to contact our office or our website for more information. You can also click the link in the chat box to fill out the newcomer form. You can sign up for our newsletter that keeps you informed of all the activities that go on here at UUFNN. And you may notice at the top of your screen, there's a speaker gallery view. You can toggle back and forth depending on how you want to view this service. And if you don't have your name on the slide, if you can always go to the three dots in the upper right corner of your picture and rename yourself so we know who you are and we can say hello. We do mute you during the service, and we will unmute you when we break off into our coffee time. And you can make comments in your chat box, especially during prayer and meditation. But we'd love it if you just kind of refrain from chatting too much while folks are presenting. You'll be invited to join our coffee time after the service, and you can continue to see each other and visit. So thank you. Thank you for being with us. Our call to worship this morning is from Penny Hackett Evans. Each of us brings a separate truth here. We bring the truth of our own life, our own story. We don't come as empty vessels, but as full people, each with our own story and our own truth. We seek to add to our truths and add to our stories. This place, rich with truth, rich with experience. All manner of people are here, needy, joyful, frightened, anxious, bored. We all bring our truth with us. May we all recognize the truth and the story in others' lives than our own. May we hear and honor the truths that we all bring as we gather together. Together, we have truths. Together, we have a story. Together, we are a community. I would like to invite you, if you have one, to light your chalice. As I do this reading from Lois Van Leer, we light this chalice not because we must, but because we may. We light this chalice not because we have the truth, but because we each come bearing and seeking many truths. We light this chalice in connection across culture, distance, class, and language. We light this chalice that our religion may be a beacon of light, hope, and justice. We light this chalice to kindle our hearts and our minds. We'll
Okay,
Go to the, there we go.
here we go.
We all know we have been attacked in the last year by the COVID virus, which has caused sickness and death around the world. But what is a virus? It's a very strange, very small thing that doesn't eat, drink, or breathe. Biologists sometimes wonder, are they even alive? They have a very small body consisting of genetic material, DNA or RNA, and some proteins. It doesn't seem like a living thing, but they have killed over 400,000 people in the United States during the current pandemic by boring into their bodies. Viruses are too small to be seen by the naked eye. They can only be viewed with an expensive electron microscope. A virus is smaller than a bacterium, but they are able to invade living cells and make copies of themselves. Since they don't eat, we can still question their status as true living things. In college, I majored in biology and learned to appreciate the scientific method and a search for truth. Sadly, many do not understand this and are today. When I was a young kid in the 1940s and 50s, on most Saturdays, we walked downtown in Modesto to the Strand movie theater. For 25 cents, you were able to watch 3 or 4 cartoons, a serial, 2 cowboy movies, plus a newsreel. Except every once in a while they stick a detective movie in, which I didn't like. One time the newsreel showed a room full of iron lungs filled with kids who required them to breathe. They were victims of polio. That newsreel scared the crap out of me. Often the polio virus left its victims permanently twisted and crippled, if not dead. At that time, there was no cure. It was particularly hard on kids. In the summer of 1916, it hit New York hard. Did something go wrong?
I don't know.
Are we okay, Sil? Okay. Children under 16 years of age were banned from places where large crowds gathered. 4th of July celebrations were canceled, along with open air movies. By October, 27,000 children had polio and 6,000 were dead. Franklin Roosevelt, the future president of our country, was crippled for life by polio in 1921. At this time, a young boy, Jonas Salk, was 2. 20 years later, he remembered the tales told about the polio days. He entered New York University Medical School with the goal of becoming a research scientist. During World War II, Salk was conscripted to help develop a vaccine under the tutelage of Thomas Francis. Their goal was to protect the troops from influenza. The two completed their task within 2 years. Salk became known. In 1947, he was promised a lab and funds to try and develop a polio vaccine. Vaccines had been made and tested for a long time. Edward Jenner developed a vaccine for smallpox in 1796. At that time, potential cures were made from live vaccines. They used small samples of pathogens in an attempt to inoculate the victim. The hope was that this would trigger the body's immune response, causing it to produce antibodies. But there was always the possibility that a virus would be weakened, but not killed. Not a good thing for the patient. Salk did not want to take that chance. He experimented using small parts of dead pathogens to trigger an immune response. They hoped the weakened sample would trigger the body's defenses, creating antibodies. He used an ingenious way to treat the vaccines. A red dye was added to their mixtures. If the solution stayed red, no antibodies were produced, so it wouldn't work. If the dye turns yellow, this signaled success. One morning, Elsie Ward, a nurse, came into the lab early. She turned on the lights on all 128 test tubes had turned yellow. They could control the virus. Salk was so excited. He knew they had succeeded. In 1951, he was granted permission to try his method on people. It took 5 years, from 1947 until 1952, for Salk and his team to develop a safe, working vaccine. Even though some people today are aware of this, you don't dare give a new vaccine to a patient unless you know it is safe. For Salk, this quest took quite a while, but finally, on April 12, 1955, they were ready to report to the University of Michigan. A large crowd of dignitaries, guests, and reporters arrived. Various speakers spoke, including the university director, who droned on and on for over an hour, as directors are like to do. Finally, Jonas got his turn. He talked for only 15 minutes, but his message was clear, and the room went wild. He had conquered polio. He became famous and couldn't get off that stage for a long time. The long wait paid off. Legendary CBS newsman Edward R. Murrow interviewed Salk and asked who owned the patent. Well, the people, I would say, said Salk, thinking of the millions of charitable donations raised by the March of Dimes that helped fund the vaccine's research and field testing. He said, there is no patent and no profit for anyone. Could you patent the sun? I admire Jonas because he cared deeply for his fellow human beings. I believe he was a true hero. It often takes a long time to develop a vaccine because you don't dare use it on patients until they're absolutely sure it is safe. I wish there were a number of people and principals and so forth who learned that today. Scientists must prove their vaccines are safe before, where'd it go? Where is it? Help!
Up there.
No, not here.
Well, you know what you want.
What?
You know what you want to say.
Oh, well, I'm gonna have to ad lib one line. Something's missing. Oh, here we go. Oh, I did that part. There we are. That's right there. Right where we're supposed to be. Again, I apologize. Scientists must prove their vaccines are safe before they are used. The process is now going on as ways are searched to prove we have a promising safe vaccine for our current virus. Meanwhile, we are being asked to take some simple steps to protect each other. You know them. Wear a mask, be wary about close contact with others, and avoid large groups. These are proven effective measures. Sadly, too many in our land avoid these simple precautions. They don't believe the viruses are dangerous. We have a lot of stupid, naive people in our country who ignore the warnings from science. Okay.
This is the time of our service when we have the opportunity to share our bounty with each other. We can do this by virtually texting 73256, putting UUFNN in the message box and hit send, then follow the instructions to provide your offering. We're also sharing the plate this month with the wonderful Verdi Posse. Many members of our fellowship are involved helping feed our neighbors without homes. So contact Jane Dunn for more detailed information. And remember, you have to text separately from your offering. You can also mail a check to the office at 780 Del Monte Lane, Reno, 89511. The slickest and cleanest way to donate is to sign up for automatic giving. You know, that's what Lois and I do, and it works great. So contact the office and Carol will send you an automatic draft authorization form. So thank you to everyone who has stepped forward to make sure our fellowship is financially secure in these uncertain times. You know, we're aware that there's some who cannot make their commitment because of the current situation. So I urge those of us that can, please contribute beyond your pledge. I'm feeling positive by all of us stepping up. We'll be stronger than ever. So thank you for taking care of our beloved community. Now let the offering begin. Well, I'd like you to join me in the dedication of our offering to the work of this fellowship, which is helping more people grow in love, faith, justice, and joy. We dedicate ourselves, and these are offerings.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in awe. Keep with the web of creation you vow. Giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new, the loving pilgrim who quests for the truth. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and embrace the sublime. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the white sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my conscience, with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. Wake now my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
I'd like to thank Rolland for that history and biology lesson. A few years ago, Lois was visiting with our grandniece who was studying to be a nurse. Lois happened to mention that I was working with Rotary International to eliminate polio from the face of the earth. When she heard that, she asked, "So what's polio?" I suspect there's a lot of younger folks who would ask that same question today. You know, even many of those like me who lived through that time in the 40s and 50s may not realize that this crippling and deadly virus still exists in other parts of the world. I'll spend a few minutes giving you a bit of history, but I really want to relate it to today and how the lessons we have learned with polio and other diseases relates to today and how those lessons can help us in today's battle against COVID. You know, after Jonas Salk discovered a vaccine for polio, Dr. Sabin improved on it for better delivery.
Just a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. Medicine go down, medicine go down. Just a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down in the most delightful way.
Yeah, those of us at a certain age remember lining up as we took our vaccine orally with a cube of sugar. So thank you, Bill, for that little tune. You know, there's a great story out there that the lyricist for the musical Mary Poppins was asked to write a new tune for a special scene. And when he got home that night, he found out that his children had received their polio vaccine. Thinking that they had a shot, he asked, well, did it hurt? One son said, no, we took it with a sugar cube. Thus was born the song, a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. You know, the US and other wealthy countries were soon on their way to eliminating polio in their lands. But what about the rest of the world? You know, international health organizations were treating pockets of outbreaks throughout the world, but the virus was being very stubborn. Rotary International was asked to come to the Philippines in the late 70s to see if they could help eliminate polio there. They went with the idea of doing mass immunizations, and it worked. A lot of discussion followed this very successful project, and Rotary connected with the World Health Organization, UNICEF, and the Center for Disease Control. After a lot of discussion and disagreement, a partnership was formed. A retired doctor and past president of Rotary International from Mexico said it best. He said, attacking polio piecemeal was like sweeping the ocean back with a broom. A goal was set to raise millions of dollars for the fight and kicked off a campaign to eradicate polio by 2005. This new partnership then started raising money through individual donations, corporate sponsorships, and asking wealthier nations to chip in millions of dollars. In 1988, there were 350,000 cases a year in 120 countries. And by the late 90s, we were down to 20 endemic countries. All the Americas, Europe, and a handful of other countries were all now polio free. Africa, the Middle East, and a few Asian countries were still fighting. One of the biggest success stories came when India, once thought to be the hardest place on earth to eradicate polio, became polio free with thousands of volunteers delivering the vaccine throughout the country. The latest success story comes from Nigeria, the last country in Africa with the wild polio virus reaching its fourth year of no cases. And so, just last year, all of Africa celebrated that the disease had been eliminated from that continent. And while there were still some cases being caused by the vaccine itself, it's a much milder form, and a new vaccine is being developed to eliminate even that problem. In 2007, when we still hadn't completely eradicated the disease, a new partner jumped in a big way. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation announced that they would start matching funds raised by Rotary. They are now doing that on a 2-to-1 basis, plus funding the new vaccine that I just mentioned. All this collaboration has resulted in only 2 countries that are still endemic. Pakistan and Afghanistan are still struggling to reach all their people, especially in those areas controlled by religious fanatics who think this is a Western plot to sterilize their children. Even in those countries, the number of new cases is less than 200 in each of the last 2 years. But we know that if we don't finish the job, the virus can still spread rapidly and cause up to 200,000 cases a year in no time. That's why there are still vaccinations going on in 50 countries, surveillance systems in all those countries, testing labs, hundreds of health workers involved. It's still quite expensive, but the resolve is strong, and I'm confident that we will overcome. Of course, we had a setback when COVID struck. The normal delivery, house to house and in close proximity, hampered our efforts. But the partnership turned their attention to contact tracing and utilizing our systems in places to help tamp down COVID in those countries where we were already monitoring. Vaccines are once again being delivered with new protocols. So my whole point in telling you these stories is that I really believe if the governments of the world, the health systems that are in place, scientists, the medical field, the pharmaceutical companies all cooperate and utilize some volunteers, we can defeat COVID. It's been proven before. There's now a scare about a new mutation of the virus, but just like there were different variants of the polio virus, we had to focus and come up with new strategies and tweak the vaccines. I'm much more optimistic now that it's starting to happen. With a new administration in Washington and the fact that we have rejoined the World Health Organization and taken the politics out of the process, isn't it refreshing to be listening to science once again? I'm hopeful that we'll set up systems to be prepared for future outbreak of unknown viruses. We still need to do our part personally. We can't let our guard down. Even though supplies are still limited, I'm encouraged by the call on a national level to speed up the process and have a more coordinated effort in the supply and delivery of the vaccine. Effective vaccines have been developed by 2 companies and more are on their way. You know, just a side note, I discovered that the Pfizer vaccine was developed by a small German company whose founders are immigrants from Turkey into Germany, and that the Moderna founder is an immigrant into the US from Beirut. I'm thankful we're starting to open our borders to immigrants again. In the meantime, we all still need to follow public health guidelines and listen to the experts like our own Dr. Kevin Murphy, who's on here today. You know, we need to continue to safely distance ourselves, wear a mask, wash our hands, and just use common sense. It'll still take a while, but we must be patient just a while longer. You know, Lois and I were fortunate enough to get our shots, and I got to tell you, it was a piece of cake. So keep on top of it. Keep checking on when you too can get that shot in the arm. We are so fortunate that this church, the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Northern Nevada, its minister, Reverend Karen, and the board have wisely kept us safe by not gathering in crowds and continue to hold our services in this manner. You know, throughout history, humans, animals around us, and even our plants have faced devastating diseases and viruses. By coming together, by relying on the best and most current scientific information, by helping one another, by continuing our search for truth and meaning, by respecting the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part, we will win. So may it be, and amen. We're going to pause for a moment of sharing our joys and concerns. You can put your thoughts into the chat box. Because of the topic today, feel free to list those close to you who have been seriously affected by COVID-19. We paused during this time to remember those whom we've lost, those whom we fear losing, those from whom we are separated, those to whom we would extend a helping hand, a caring heart, the will to live. We've paused also to hope for life and good living, for love and kind words, for reconciliation, for the support of family and friends, for the meaning in our struggle for wholeness. May our memories and hope renew us for the days and nights to come. Well, as usual, we have a few announcements to make. I just want to first thank you for joining us today. And for future programmings, make sure you check your email for all the listings. And if you need help with Zoom or any support, or you know that someone that does, feel free to contact the office and help will be on its way. And if you'd like to receive our emails, fill out the online card. And if you know folks who are isolated and may need a connection, make sure you let them know about our Sunday services. So Gaia Brown sent me an announcement that next Sunday, February 7th at 12:15, you're invited to attend a Chosen Faith Session 1. You know, this is an amazing history of Unitarian Universalisms and the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Northern Nevada. So whether you've been a member for decades, I know that Betty Hulse is on here. That's a few decades. And maybe you just met us today. You'll be entertained, enlightened, and educated. We need to know in advance if you're attending. So if you could send your written materials and Zoom connection, we'll send that to you once you let us know. So look in today's chat box to see how to respond and keep an eye out for the notices during the week. And today, immediately following the service, actually, I think I got a note that this may have been canceled, so double check that this is going to be postponed. There was supposed to be an opportunity for family and children who want to participate in our Sunday services. I believe that's been postponed. We are organizing a tribute to the staff at the ICU at Renown. And we're looking for card makers of all ages. So we need at least 100 cards made that will be delivered to the staff around Valentine's Day. So we're hoping you can help. Crayon, pen, short or long, We need any kind of note showing appreciation for hanging in there and getting our city through this pandemic. We will have a few drops off boxes around town set up, so you contact Valerie or watch your e-announce for addresses. And you're willing to put in a drop box on your porch, please contact Valerie. And again, that notice and her address will be there. We also need a couple poster makers if you're interested in helping. So we hope to do some similar events for the Northern Nevada Medical Center and the Examiner's Office later this year. And now a few remarks from Rolland.
Bill, in a few minutes, is going to sing Amazing Grace to finish. I think this is an amazing and appropriate song. Anytime, it's a beautiful song. It celebrates a man who has had little success in his life, as he says. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. So this is a song of redemption and forgiveness. Contrasting this is our recent mess surrounding the White House in America. Donald Trump wanted a second term and president, but lost. He didn't accept this. He kept trying to get in. He encouraged white supremacists and other gangs to attack the White House, as most of you know. On March 6th, a large gang went to the White House for the attack. They destroyed items in the White House and began stealing things. Some of them had guns, and people were shot. 5 people, including a policeman, were killed. Many young revolutionaries are now jailed and are sitting in jail. Good place. This was the product of a large number of people following the instructions of one man, Mr. Trump, without thinking. Trump had been turned down 60 times by the Supreme Court, but he still hadn't given up. These are despicable people, but Trump is now talking about trying again in the next election. I pray he is not successful. We now sing a great, Amazing Grace.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Was grace that taught my heart to fear.
close with the words from Wayne Arneson. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone.
Amen.